Let's talk about why everyone doesn't like your music and why that's 100% normal and okay. My name is Pete Johns. This is the Studio Live Today podcast. If you're new around here, head over to studiolivetoday.com for all the ways that you can follow and interact with me and with Studio Live Today, because around here, my goal is to help you create, record, and release your best music. So why am I telling you that everyone doesn't like your music? Well, we'll get to that. We'll be talking about that throughout the show here today. But first, I have a question for you. What do you think is the most popular beer in America? Now, if that sounds completely irrelevant, at the end of this podcast, I'm going to reveal why that is 100% related to what we're going to be talking about here today. But ponder that one as we go through. If you know your American beers, there's already names popping into your head. I won't try and sully the waters by saying anything more, but have a think about that as we talk about this topic. So, notice the title. Notice that I said why everyone doesn't like your music. And in fact, if you could underline the word everyone, because that's the point here, yeah? Everyone won't like your music, and that's totally fine. You know why? Because I bet you don't like every type of music. I bet you don't like all genres. I bet you don't like all artists. I bet you don't like all of the latest pop songs. Every single song that comes out is not going to be up your alley. In fact, I would go as far as to say that more than 50%, maybe for most of us more than 80%, maybe 90%, of what's actually produced, we don't like. It's not in our wheelhouse. We don't gel with it. And that is 100% okay, because that's just the way things go. I'm going to talk a little bit about where we came from, where we are, and where we're going in the future of this sort of thing. And the reason I'm talking about this topic this week is that I get comments, I get questions, I get emails. I get a lot of folks saying to me, why isn't anyone listening to my music? Why don't people like my music? Why am I not popular, famous, successful? Insert whatever phrase you like here. But a lot of us that are creating music, especially independent and up-and-coming artists, we really are trying to find an audience. We're trying to find folks that want to listen to our music. But the challenge, or the problem that most of us have, is that we think of this in terms of finding the largest possible group. How do I get my music out to all of us? And to be honest, that's why a lot of us made the mistakes early on of sharing it with our Facebook friends and sharing it with our Twitter followers and sharing it on Instagram, with all the people that are in our lives for other reasons apart from our music. So there's probably number one tip there is that you probably want to segregate or separate out your music sharing, because as nice as your family and friends and colleagues are to you about your music, they're probably not your core demographic. They're probably not your core audience, especially if you may be making some music that's a little left of center, and nothing wrong with that. In fact, it's often a lot more fun to do that. It's not going to be mainstream. Therefore, the majority of people that you probably interact with probably aren't going to be into it. Now, does that mean they can't respect you and respect what you do and like the fact that you create music and you shouldn't be proud of you? No, none of that. But remember, we're talking about people that want to listen to your music that aren't listening because they feel obliged or because they feel pity. I don't know. Look, I'm probably opening up some wounds here with this subject. So I'm talking as much to me as I am to you, because I've been there, I've been through this, and I still go through this on a regular basis. Because when you create music, when you create art, it's your baby, and you want to share your baby. It's like when people have their first child and their Facebook feeds become full of baby photos. It's because they're proud. It's because they want to share that with the world. Now, is everyone going to want to see a whole bunch of baby spam? Maybe, maybe not. But those people will choose not to follow those people on Facebook. And it's the same with your music. Some folks are probably already choosing not to follow you because you're passionate about music and maybe you're sharing too much about it. But that's okay. It's all right to do that. You can do that. But the number one practical tip right up front here is if you are starting to share your music, start interacting in groups, in forums that are around your type of music. Because like the title says, everybody doesn't have to like your music, but I bet someone does. There's virtually no music in the world that someone doesn't like, regardless of what the song or the genre or the style of music, it's somebody's favorite. Yes, you, I'm talking to you, you could be someone's favorite artist. You could be creating the sort of music that someone wants to listen to. And that's really cool. But it doesn't mean that everyone is going to want to listen to your music. And here in 2023 or whatever year in the future you're listening to this, it's actually harder than ever to get that mass exposure, that massive getting out to everyone. It's all about the niches. What do they say? The riches are in the niches. But whether you call it a niche or whether you call it a tribe, however you define the group of people that you're trying to hang out with, appeal to, share music with, you do need to define that. And it's not going to be everyone. And again, that's okay. Let's look at what's happening with music right now. So we have so much competition in the world of music. The barrier to entry, thanks to folks like me and those in my tribe and in my groups, we are helping. My mantra here is to help you create, record, and release your best music without all the gear, without all the know-how, by picking up your mobile phone and throwing GarageBand on there and starting to write songs and record songs and release songs and get your music out there. Share your art with the world. But you know what that does? It means that no longer do you need a recording studio to create great quality music. No longer do you need thousands or tens of thousands of dollars and hundreds of hours of work and effort to create music. You can pick up your phone, your iPad, your Mac, your PC. You can start recording. There's so many different software platforms. And if you're just getting started, studiolivetoday.com. We've got a plethora, a veritable plethora of information there about how to get started. But with that, with great ease of entry comes great competition. So because it's never been easier to get your music out there, it means that there is an abundance, thanks to folks like DistroKid, who are a channel sponsor here. They who I use to distribute my music, to get it out there to the world. Because of these amazing distributors, anyone can get it out there. I've said one of the things that warms the cockles of my heart is that when I go onto Spotify or Apple Music or all these places, I can see Foo Fighters, then I can see Pete Johns, and then I can see Muse, and then I can see Beatles, and then I can see my friends and my colleagues who are creating music, people that I've helped and coached and mentored and got releasing music. They're right out there with the quote-unquote professionals. But it does mean that there is more music. And remember, it's all a competition. But is it? We'll talk about that in a moment. But it is. There is, whether you like it or not, the competition is not between you and another individual. It is attention competition. You are competing for people's attention because they could be watching and binging the latest Netflix show. New Black Mirror, awesome, by the way. Joan is awful. They could be playing PlayStation or Xbox. They could be playing a mobile game and sending microtransactions all over the place. They could be listening to a pop song. They should be listening to Taylor Swift. They could be going to live music. They could be sitting on their couch contemplating their navel. There are so many things that folks can be doing right now that sitting down and simply listening to music is not something that a lot of people get a lot of time to do. Even I had to make a show. I do my Your Music Live show just so that for 2 hours a week, I can sit down and just listen to new independent music. And you can listen along as well. Yeah, go to studiolivetoday.com, Your Music Live, that's the show. But there's so much competition for our ear holes and our eye holes that it is making it harder. So what is the solution to that? It's not about putting your stuff out in more places. This is the mistake I see. This is what I see people, those same people that have emailed me or have messaged me, they're getting their stuff everywhere. They're going to every group and every forum and every page and every social media platform and spam, spammity, spam. Yo, check out my Firebeat. Yo, check out my Firebeat. Yo, check out my Firebeat. You know what's happening? Not only are people not checking out your Firebeat, people are blocking you. People are reporting you. The platforms are seeing that you're spamming and they're limiting your reach. You're actually shooting yourself in the foot. What's the alternative? Well, it's finding a group of like-minded people and interacting in a way that's human. I know, if you listen to these gurus, these social media experts, they talk about scalability and they talk about getting the maximum amount of exposure. But the thing is, you need to choose where you want that exposure and where you're trying to get that exposure. So if you're making amazing death metal, going and putting it in a classical group, okay, that's a bad example. Classical and metal have a great amount of crossover. But let's say you go to like a jazz, people that love jazz and Motown and old school funk, and you're making like this amazing face-melting metal, it's probably not going to appeal to that group. And it's definitely not going to appeal to a children's music group, or it's not going to appeal to a J-pop or a K-pop group. So, but if you go and you find all the cool groups that talk about death metal 24/7 on Twitter and Facebook and Pages and Playmers, and I don't remember them all now. What's the new one? Threads. So if you can find some threads about death metal and start interacting, and it's not about sleazing your way in there and sort of pretending to talk about stuff and then throwing your stuff out there. But if you're genuinely interested in this type of music, you're probably going to learn a lot hanging out and talking about music with other people. And therefore, you won't have the problem because everyone doesn't like your music, but death metal fans probably do, or they'll at least give you a listen, and some of them will like you. And that's the key point here, is that some folks will like your music, but not everyone. Have you heard of the 1,000 True Fans? Now, I forget who popularized it. It's been bantered about and re-engineered and re-talked about a bunch of times. But basically, it comes out like this, that if you have 1,000 true fans, you can basically make a full-time living based on that. It's the whole Patreon model. If you wonder how some folks are on Patreon and they've got like even a few hundred patrons or a few thousand patrons, it's that thing that you're actually tapping into people who are in that group that are passionate about what you're doing and what you're bringing. Now, for me, here on YouTube, and as a content creator or an influencer, really dislike that term, but for me and the job that I do here, I'm very lucky that I can do this because there are enough people who agree with the goals that I have. They understand my why and they know why I'm passionate about what I do, and they're on board, and they'll support me either by donating during live streams or adding donation to videos, sending me PayPal donations, becoming a patron of the channel, buying some merchandise, streaming or buying my music, watching the videos, letting that 30-second ad roll instead of just hitting the skip button. And all those little things add up to me being able to do this as my full-time gig. Now, interestingly, a little side anecdote here. It's the school holidays here, and my nephew was over yesterday, hanging out, playing with his cousin, my daughter, and was hanging out. We were playing, playing some Pokemon Go and whatever else around the house. And he said to me, just out of the blue, he's like, "Pete, are you going to get a gold play button?" Now, for those of you not familiar with YouTube and how YouTube works, a gold play button denotes that you've got 1 million subscribers. So yeah, that's a lot. And I am lucky enough, I'm privileged enough that I've crossed the 100,000 subscriber mark about a year or two ago. So I've got about 125,000 subscribers now. And he said, "Are you going to get a gold play button?" And I answered, quick as you like, no. Straight away, I said no. And you might be thinking, that's a bit negative, isn't it, John? Shouldn't you be like striving and aiming and scaling and building a team? No, because the way I got out of the corporate world, because I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to build a team. I don't want to manage people. I want to have my niche. I've got my goal. I've got a really clear idea of my why and what my passion is all about, which is helping people create, record, and release their best music. So everything I do is related to that. And while there's a very slim outside chance that if I manage to tap into every person that agrees with my mantra and is on board with my goals, that maybe there's 1 million people out there that exactly agree with that. But I just don't think so. And I said to him, no, but I think I'd be very happy if, maybe we'll grow to 150,000 or 200,000. Maybe there's enough other people out there. I won't rest until I've tried to get in front of every single person that's not creating music, but I think should be or is capable of creating music. So it's not like I'm going to give up, but I also don't think it's realistic. And I said to him, I'm like, well, if I did want to do that, not that I know how I could, but I don't have the sort of channel and the sort of thing that I do is not going to be able to do. If I want to do that, I'd make a prank channel, or I'd start doing short form content, or I'd start following trends and doing reaction videos and all the things that people do that generate. But that's the thing. If you're doing that, the equivalent, the music equivalent there is like going, oh, what's popular? You know what I'll do? I'll create music that sounds like Billie Eilish. I'll create music that sounds like Taylor Swift, that sounds like Drake. I'll just try to become whatever is popular. And that works for some people. And if you want to chase that, I'm not going to stand in your way. But it is very difficult to do that. And it's also very difficult to have the level of passion and to be as good at that person as that person is. Does that make sense? Yeah, it's hard. I'm not going to be as good at Taylor Swift as Taylor Swift. I know, shocking, hard to believe, but I am pretty good at being Pete Johns. And the reason that I promote other people and I love the community of creators that we have around here is that it's not a competition. Remember how I said competition before? It is not a competition because I'm a true believer in the high tide raises all ships. And I think that if everyone is doing what they do, we can all exist together. And I'm not the sort of people that love getting angry and watching people like Rick Beato and others talk about music and talk about the industry and talk about pop music and all the rest of it. I'm not competing with them. They can get 1 million subscribers and they have a very different audience and a very different mission to what I'm actually doing around here. So the competition is not with direct competition with other people, whether it's video creation or whether it's with your music, unless you choose to go that route. Here's the reality of that though. You might be saying, people still make it, but why does it seem so much harder now? I've already talked about the influx, like the amount of music being created. What's actually happened is the divide has increased. So the way it was in the past is, let's just say, this isn't the real numbers, but let's just say that 100,000 people, 100,000 artists could create, record, and release their music. And of that, there were 100 really popular artists. So if you think of the 100 artists that you can think of, U2, Weezer, Green Day, Taylor Swift, Katy Perry, like this sort of level, like the Queen and Beatles, if you want to go back, Elton John, Billy Joel. Think about those artists. That was like a pool, so 1,000 of 100,000. Now you've got that same ability to have those 1,000 artists, but you've got 1 million people that can create, record, and release their best music. So am I saying it's 10 times harder now to become a famous pop star than it was? Yeah, in fact, it's probably about 100 times or maybe even 1,000 times harder, because what's happened is that there are only the same minimal amount of big rock stars and pop stars that can sell out stadiums and that can get gold and platinum records. But there's a heck of a lot of others that are trying, a heck of a lot of people that are producing music, which means that hitting that exact lightning in a bottle where you get the right song written well, recorded well, and released to the right audience at the right time that hits the right note in the right part of society is challenging. And it's not something I want to do. It's stressful, like trying to appeal. You remember the old adage is if you try to appeal to everyone, you end up appealing to no one because you're trying to spread yourself too thin. And that's why for independent creators, for people making music, my preference and my recommendation is make music that you want to make. Make the sort of music that resonates with you, that makes you happy, that you know that other people will dig, but it'll be a subset of people. It'll be those 1,000 true fans that really like what you're doing and really want to be involved with what you're doing. Now, the challenge still remains. You've got to find those people. You've got to find your audience, and there's ways to do that, both organically, through paid ads with things like Facebook and other places. We're not really talking about that here today, but maybe that's a topic for a future podcast that we can talk about. But yeah, the lower barrier to entry, the big amount of competition, and the fact that we really haven't changed. In fact, if I had to say anything, it would be that there's probably less of those high-level pop stars and rock stars now than there even were 10, 20, 30 years ago. Because, again, we're flooded with stuff, and it's not just the music stars that we have now, but you have TV stars. You have reality TV stars, which is a whole different subset, a whole different subgenre. You've got online personalities on YouTube and TikTok and Instagram. You've got Insta models. You've got Instafluencers. You've got all of these made up words for people that are doing different things. And all of those people are sucking in the attention of the general public. You know what the thing with the general public is? Yeah, that they like a lot of things, but they like a lot of different things. So you don't generally want to be getting your music out there and trying to impress everyone. Because again, if you try to make everyone happy, if you try to make everyone like your music, you're going to end up with just annoying people. And then even the people that might like your music just think you're a shameless self-promoting spammer and don't want to interact with your music. So you can actually do yourself more damage. It's a bit like the old sub for sub. Have you ever seen folks that are like, sub for sub, bro, follow for follow, like for like? Or they go out to all their friends and say, "Oh, if you could just come and subscribe to my YouTube channel, that'll be great." And they get 100 subscribers because they do a big subscription drive. How is that helping them? It gives them a little, maybe a little confidence boost because they see their number go from like 10 to 110 in a week or two. Those 100 friends aren't going to engage with their content, though. They're not going to listen to their music. It's probably not their jam, but they're doing it out of obligation or guilt or reciprocal benefits. And all of those are not good reasons. So whenever I hear someone say, "Yo, go and subscribe to this channel," I always say, if you enjoy this. And the same with my channel here. I don't want someone to subscribe to my channel if the sort of content I produce is not along their lines. If you're a rapper and you're into hardcore rap, Studio Live today, I mean, there might be some videos, maybe releasing your music and DistroKid videos and some other things and production tips. Maybe there is some things that are in there for you. That's cool. But if you're into basket weaving, Studio Live today isn't for you. Do I want someone that's a passionate crocheter to come and subscribe to Studio Live today? No, because you know how much content I have for crochet fans? Zero. Goose egg. Nothing. So consider that you want to engage with folks who are going to like the same things that you like. Now, did I do this podcast? Am I doing this rant to try and bring you down? No, I'm hoping that this actually encourages you. Because number one, here's the reasons why this should be encouraging to you. You are not alone. Everyone is on this same journey. Everyone's in the same boat. Everyone faces these same challenges. It's how we actually adapt to them and push through. Number two is that it is going to help you out to realize and to just take that. Like the biggest thing I hear from people, and it's weird, I either hear from people that they're too scared to share their music because they're worried so much about how people will think or how much people will care about them and what they're doing, or they're spamming themselves out there to everyone, and then they're saying, "Why doesn't anyone care about me?" We need to find the middle ground. I really hope we can find that middle ground, that folks have the courage to say, "I'm putting this out there because I want to put it out there and I want to share my music, I want to share my art," without then worrying because if I put a song out and no one listens to it, I've still had a great time and released a song that I'm proud of and happy with. If one or two people listen to it and engages with it, that's great. If 10, 20, 100, 1,000, that's all good. It's all gravy. It's all bonus after that. Whereas if you're chasing, I want to get at least 100,000 streams on this song, and you only get 20,000 and you're disappointed in that, guess what? 20,000 people wanted to legitimately listen to your song. Now, if you go and buy another 80,000 streams just to make yourself feel better, that ain't helping anyone. That really is not helping you, and it's not helping anyone. So consider that as you go about your business, as you're creating your music, creating and recording and releasing your best music. Just think about the fact that, you know what? Everyone doesn't like your music, but someone does. Someone thinks you rock. Someone thinks you're awesome. You are probably someone's favorite artist. And that's what I wanted to end with here on this week's podcast. Oh, wait, what's that you say? What is the most popular beer in America? It's other. Yeah, I wanted to leave you with this because this is super encouraging to me. It is not Budweiser. It is not Coors. It is not Miller. It's not even something left field like a Heineken or something imported. It's definitely not Foster's. Don't drink Foster's, folks. Sorry. You can drink Foster's if you choose. Australians don't drink Foster's. The most popular beer in America is other. Now, that's a bit of a cheat, yes, because other includes all of the non-big, all the microbreweries, all the small breweries that are creating a lot of different beers. But the reason that gives me hope is that I would imagine that music is the same. If you took the top 10 artists these days, they're not going to account for the majority. Like, no one artist is going to account for the majority of music listening. It really is other. And especially if you get down into the niches and the ditches, you're going to find that a lot of people are listening to some fairly eclectic stuff. Go and do a straw poll. Go and ask your friends and say, what's your 5 favorite artists to listen to? you're going to get, yeah, you'll get a few people telling you some mainstream stuff, but I bet you that you'll talk to someone like me and say, oh, I've been listening to a heap of Crash Test Dummies lately. There was this Adelaide band called the Test Eagles back in the 90s that I really dig, and I've been listening to their EP a bunch from 1998. Like, that's the sort of thing you get. When I talk to Canadians, they always seem to have these cool bands that I've never heard of that are like their favourite bands. And I'll go and listen to them and go, oh, that's actually pretty cool. I'm going to go and listen to more of that. So, yeah, you would be surprised how many people just have a diverse taste in beer, but also in music. So I hope you got a little bit of value out of this one, and it's given you some perspective and maybe some practical ideas and tips too, to not spend your time trying to appeal to everyone. Don't follow the trends just because they're the trends. Try to be as true to yourself as you can be. And remember, we're here to have fun. Music creation should be fun. As soon as you are creating music and you are not enjoying it, as soon as it's more of a chore or more of a job than it is a pleasure, then maybe you need to rethink how you're creating music. But I would like to encourage you to continue creating, recording, and releasing your best music. Remember, you can check out all of the details over at studiolivetoday.com. It's your one-stop shop. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can subscribe to the podcast. Check out the merch. Check out the gear guide if you need to upgrade your studio to record your best music. And as we say at the end of each and every show here on Studio Live Today, I hope you are kind to yourself. I hope you are kind to others. And most of all, keep creating, folks. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.